How would you like to bet right alongside your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper for the next 40 days for under $5 per day? Well, we have you covered. A 30-day all-access pass is priced at $2.99, but for a limited time, not only are we discounting the price by $100, but adding on 10 more days of picks for free. So outside of the $100 discount, we are tossing in a free 3-day all-access, a $39 value, and a free 7-day all-access, a $99 value for a combined savings of $238. So to recap, for the next 40 days, you will get all plays across all sports from your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper played during your access, including 5% best bets for under $5 per day. Have an existing all-access pass? No worries, as your 40 days will not begin until your current package expires.
Welcome into First Pitch for Monday, May 2nd. I am Drew Martin, joined by Brian Leonard and Tony Finn of WagerTalk.com. We're breaking down 3 games on the slate for tonight. Short Monday slate in MLB, but it's a good slate here. We got 3 good games, best bets at the end. We're going to be talking Braves, Mets, Yankees, Blue Jays, and Mariners, Astros, right in that order. First up here, Brian Leonard, WagerTalk.com. Off to a hot start in MLB. Brian, good to have you back, man. How you feeling Monday?
I'm feeling good. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on the show. I had to take care of some family business, but it's nice to come out of a little break like that with a winning record, which we have had for the last 14 days. So not being in Vegas hadn't hurt me, but now I'm back. 3-0 yesterday in Major League Baseball. Look for more of that today.
The clean sweep, going after it again. And Tony Finn as well on today's show, known by some as Tijuana Tony. Tony, happy Monday to you, buddy.
Thank you. Very much happy Monday right back to you guys as well.
Guys, let's get after it here. In the NL East, a good one. The defending World Series champions, the Atlanta Braves, Brian, up against the New York Mets. Of course, the Mets off of Sunday Night Baseball, but they are staying at home. Chris Bassett on the hill, minus 110 here. Competitively priced game. Kind of a tricky handicap. I was interested to see where this line would open. Didn't open until this morning as I was trying to do some overnight here, Brian. But Max Fried, the lefty for the Braves, actually at a plus price, kind of surprising, 6.5 or 7. Low total here, Brian, in Citi Field. What do you like in Braves and Mets?
Yeah, so they brought this out at 125 for the Mets, and money's come in on the Braves. Some of that may be, as you mentioned, the Mets played last night, national TV, the Sunday night game, didn't travel, which is the big advantage for them here. But I guess I had a chance while I was traveling the last couple of weeks. I got a chance to see Fried pitch in Atlanta against the Cubs. Got to go to Truist Field. Nice field. A new, I believe, second or third year for that stadium. They really built it up around there. A lot of nice bars, restaurants. So if you're in the Atlanta area, I would recommend going to Truist Field and catching the game. A lot of places within walking distance, which is really nice if you're a fan of baseball and you like to go out and have a good time beforehand and afterwards. And so really liked it. Yeah, it's a situation for me where I'm somewhat surprised the money has come in on Fried here. I know he's listed as the better pitcher here, but Bassett's just been terrific the last couple of years. Not as dominant as a lot of players are, but this New York Mets rotation has just been outstanding. You take a look at what the Mets have done so far, especially at home this year. They've been tremendous, got tremendous starting pitching at home so far this season. Bassett's a guy I'm looking to back. I think there's a little bit of advantage now since money's coming in on the Braves. I prefer the Mets a little bit here. The Mets have, the last few years, have had a lot of talent on this team, and they just haven't put it together. Lindor last year, I figured he would struggle a little bit going from Cleveland to a major metropolitan area in New York, and he did. And now he's used to it a little bit, and he's come out with a new, he's been more invigorated in the offseason, comes out playing well. The Mets are a tough team to go against right now. So I think there's some value here playing on the Mets. Atlanta brought their big bat back just a few games ago, and he's been playing 3 of the 4 games so far. That's a big advantage for Atlanta. So I like both these teams on the season, but the Mets are the team who right now are playing the defending champions. I think it's an important series for the Mets, and they are playing at home, and the line's a little bit cheaper than I thought it was going to be. I like the Mets here.
Yeah, Tony, coming to you next. I agree with Brian. I had the Mets circled here. To see the Braves take some money, I guess Fried has a 21-1 strikeout to walk ratio. We normally see money come in on that huge strikeout to walk ratio, something that I've noticed anyway over the last couple years. But Bassett, to Brian's point, he's been good. I mean, 3 of the 4 starts he's had this year, he's given up either 0 or 1 earned run, and he's gone 6 innings in all of them. He's got 6+ Ks in all of his starts as well. Bassett might be riding under the radar here. -110. I was looking towards the Metropolitans. Can you talk us off of it, Tony?
I could. I think I could. I mean, first and foremost, I think we have 2 teams meeting up tonight. That with one who I'm going to speak in general terms, and that's maybe overachieved to some degree. One that's underachieved, and the one that's overachieved is the one that has yet to lose a series yet over the first month of the season. I guess not quite a month, but pretty close, right? An Atlanta team under 500 that has dealt with some injuries, some guys coming back that didn't play much last year. But I like the way Atlanta's played lately, and I certainly like the way Fried has kind of jumped, or at least recovered from a down after the COVID, after he came out and really set the standard for Atlanta pitching or Atlanta farm system guys. His metrics, his rotation, his RPMs, all of that were being compared to some of the better left-handers in history. And currently, at that time, Kershaw. He was being compared to a young Kershaw. And in fact, on this show, I remember having it was Dave and myself, and I think it was I can't remember now, but at that time I kind of made a statement that I thought he was the best left-hander in baseball. Kershaw was hurt at that time, and I think he was, and he had a great year. That said, his numbers are pretty good. You guys have talked about his numbers. I mean, 1 walk, right? And how many innings this year? 23, whatever it may be. That's pretty impressive. I don't have the umpire yet for this game, but I would definitely be. Listen, if you're going to give me Fried, Bassett's been great, guys. Come on, Bassett's been great, but he's still not that dynamic. He's not the dynamic pitcher. He doesn't have that nasty stuff that Fried brings to the mound. And listen, the wind's blowing in. It's Citi Field, guys. Wind's blowing in. I like the under in this game. The total's a little bit too low for me, but I would be on Atlanta long before I would be backing Bassett, who have already won 2 games with this year. So, roll the dice. I'll be on Atlanta and the lefty, a big, strong, left-handed Fried.
Possibly the game of the night, the Braves and the Mets. And if it's not, hey, our next game likely is here, Tony. We got the New York Yankees, Toronto Blue Jays in the AL East, the 2 top teams at the AL East. Going north of the border here, we get Jordan Montgomery coming from the left side for the Yankees against Ross Stripling, the former Texas A&M Aggie, going for the Blue Jays. 8.5 the total, Tony. Another competitively priced game here, -120 as low as -115. That's the Yanks as the road favorite. Good one up north. What are you liking here? Yankees and Blue Jays, Tony.
I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to give you a short, or at least a preview of what I see in this game, and then it's my best bet for the day. So I'll talk more of it during that segment. But it's only how long has it taken Toronto to figure out Stripling? How they're going to handle Stripling? When they brought him over from the West Coast, he wasn't very good, guys. I think you guys will agree with that. He really struggled early on with his tenure in Toronto, at least. Now that Toronto has gone from stretching him, shortening him, back to they got this 6-starter experiment that it's always been in the Blue Jays' plans. And Ross Stripling and the bullpen, after they strung together 9 really good innings, and I can't remember the day of that game recently, obviously it's only been a month of the season, it appears that that's what we're going to get moving forward, too. They're not going to let Stripling catch any, yet alone the Yankees. They're not going to let him pitch a 3rd time through the order, and sometimes even a 2nd time through the order, depending on how many pitches he's thrown. And I'm a big Montgomery guy. I mean, I always have been. I like him. So this game really is intriguing to me, and I'll talk more about that in the best bet section. But the one thing about this New York team is they're hard contact guys. They are the top of Major League Baseball in hard contact. It is not translated into a lot of runs yet, but as the weather warms, this is a team that we better be prepared to put up a lot of crooked innings on a warm night against an average pitcher.
Brian, coming to you next here, talking about the Yankees. I mean, Montgomery on the hill, he's been all right. The team's just 1-3, though, with him starting games. We get this Yankees lineup where, they're one of the top in MLB. They're also smashing righties as well. But is it because of the teams they've been going against? They've kind of had possibly the easiest schedule in MLB to date, but they have the best record in baseball. So you got to give them credit. They can only beat who they're playing here. Toronto at home, Stripling off of his best start of the year, going 5 innings, 7 Ks, 0 walks, 1 earned run against the Red Sox. I don't know. Does that point towards the Blue Jays at home plus price, Brian?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the Blue Jays at home here. I'm not a Stripling fan, haven't been. But yeah, you mentioned it. The Yankees have played 4 games against teams with 500 better record. They're 2-2. So that would put them at 14-4 against teams lower than 500. So they've beaten up on some bad teams. Toronto currently 6-4 on the season against teams with 500 better records. So that leans me a little bit with Toronto here. And if you take a look at the Yankees, I mean, the Yankees right now are hitting the hell out of the ball, but this is once again the same problem the Yankees are going to have. They have made a few changes to their lineup where they brought in some guys. Starting shortstop this year, I think, is a guy that's more defensive, more of a singles, steals kind of guy. But they still rely too much on the long ball. When they're hitting the long ball, they're going to be tough to beat. Anybody who's got big power hitters that are on, they're going to be tough to beat. But there's also a lot of swing and miss in this lineup. We've seen it with Joey Gallo. He hit home runs 2 out of his last 3 games or so. But when Gallo went to the Yankees with that short porch in right field, I really expected him to just explode in this stadium. He hasn't done it. Now they're going on the road here to Toronto. The Yankees are too much of, I can see the Yankees winning a lot of blowout games. I can see the Yankees losing a lot of blowout games because of the home runs. They're just going to be too many solo home runs from the Yankees this year. That is my concern. They're 10-3 at home, but this game is on the road. Toronto 9-4 at home. And when you take a look at these teams so far this season, you've got the Yankees throwing a lefty here against Toronto. When you take a look at the FanGraph stats, Toronto on the season is only a 92 WRC plus against lefties, only 128 plate appearances, which is basically it is the lowest by a pretty good margin. So they haven't faced too many left-handers. And if you remember last year, they raked against lefties. So you've got a situation where a small sample size is showing that Toronto has not played well against lefties. But then again, it's a small sample size, and everything at this point of the season is. But I like this Toronto team playing at home against a Yankees team who is beat up on some weak opposition, and you're catching the team at home here as an underdog. Put me on Toronto.
Good analysis there, Brian. And guys, shout out to the chat box, everybody joining us live. We got Justin Sports, JR, Buck G, Wes. Nice to see all of you guys. See James as well. We got Joey saying both bullpens were used pretty heavy, which is a concern for him. And also some comments here. Toronto has been a playoff type atmosphere early on here. That's from Ryan north of the border. So should be a good atmosphere, guys. Yankees in town. And Toronto has been a fun atmosphere for home games. So that will be a good one. The Yankees and the Blue Jays, Braves and the Mets as well. And then we got one going a little bit later tonight, 8:10 Eastern time, that is. Odorizzi versus Gonzalez. That's the Mariners versus the Astros here, Brian. Of course, AL West teams going at it. These two teams could be going at it all year long in the standings. 8.5 being the total competitively priced game here, seeing mostly minus 120 now as the Astros have been bought down. Or I guess we should put that as the Mariners taking some money as the dog here, Brian. What are you liking in Houston, Texas tonight?
Yeah, I see Houston opens at 120. I see him up as high as 140 a circuit right now. So money has been coming in on Houston. I agree with that. I like the Houston side here. Odorizzi's not a guy I'm looking to bet on very often, but right now he's gotten off to such a bad start, people are loading up to bet against him until today, because there's money coming in on Houston today. And a lot of that has to do with Gonzalez going for Seattle. He's not an overpowering left-hander. And very similar to the game we just discussed, Toronto last year was very good against lefties. Houston was very good against lefties, and Houston's gotten off to that slow start against them this year in small sample size. You take a look at what they've done so far. They've only had Houston 89 WRC plus versus lefties, and they've had 262 plate appearances against them so far this year. So I expect a better output from Houston in that regard against the lefty. And we talked about these two teams last year a lot. Seattle had a lot of games go their way, a one-run variety, and there was a situation where we were looking to go against them. So far, Seattle off to a nice start, 12-10 with a plus 20 run differential. In fact, they're only a game ahead of Houston, but they've got a 24 run differential advantage here against Houston. But when you take a look at the Astros, they've only played 6 home games on the season, 16 on the road. So now back home, trailing Seattle in the standings here for a team that's expected to win this division. I still think Houston will. I think we've got some advantage here on the Astros, although the line was in the regional 120 range. I think I gave it to clients at 119. Not as strong as it was earlier, but still, Houston would be the only way I would look in this game.
Good analysis, Brian, and thanks for bringing up that point. I said the wrong team was getting money. I prepared for the show, guys, last night. Houston was minus 120. Now they're as high as minus 140 looking at the WagerTalk odds screen. Great point there, Brian. Tony, coming to you next. You know, the first 2 games were good, and guess what? We got another one here in Houston. Odorizzi going for the Astros. And another thing about Marco Gonzalez, guys, he only got 1 out in his last start. He actually took a line drive off of his wrist here. So that's another kind of tricky handicap here, Tony, because it's not necessarily, can't really count it as a bad start, but at the same time, it's almost like a skip start, I would say. I don't really know how to handle that, but interested in your thoughts here, Mariners and Astros.
109 mile an hour exit velocity fastball, or off the wrist. So that's significant, isn't it, guys? I mean, I know it's not a car. Baseball's not a car, but I don't want to get hit by anything that's going 109 miles an hour. So everything seemed to be kosher, though. Drew, the one thing I've followed this pretty closely, and he's had quite a few sessions, side sessions, not full side sessions, but he's thrown, he's tested it. Everything seems to be okay. However, it's Gonzalez. It's Marco's arguably the one guy. He's really morphed and transformed into a guy that, prior to 2019, I'm aging myself every day more and more. He was a guy you could depend on to get a ground ball if he needed a ground ball. If he needed a ground ball, he knew how to get it. It's just not the case. He's gone from being really an extreme ground ball pitcher, or at least one of the best in the league, to an extreme fly ball pitcher. And if you look at his peripherals, his ERA compared to his FIP or xFIP, he's one of these guys. This line is moved for 2 reasons, and you mentioned it first, and that is one is that Jose Altuve is going to be back tonight, right, from his rehab. So that's worth a couple cents to the line. Secondly, there's a lot of organized groups, investment groups, that Marco Gonzalez is a straight fade. I am one of those guys that's on that straight fade. I've already played against him twice this year, actually. One of them was last game when he pitched when he had 1 out. So, listen, Houston has started kind of slow. They've been a little bit lackadaisical, I thought, in some of the things they do, lazy, if you want to use that word. But they've played 16 of their first 22 games away from home. They're back home now. This homestand probably, I think, brings them around a little bit. Altuve's back. Odorizzi's not the guy that I want to trust with a big part of my bankroll. But tonight I'm on Houston. I'm not in the room, but I'm on Houston if I'm in this room.
Tony, I got a question for you before we get to best bets, and Brian, I'll bounce it off of you as well, because we don't get to have you guys on each and every day. And sure enough, we're at the 22, 23 game mark of the season, and we've seen unders coming into yesterday hit at a 57% clip to the under so far this season. I mean, that's profitable just blindly betting the unders, guys. But yesterday was 12-3 to the overs. I've heard different opinions out there on why I guess the run suppression is happening. Is it the baseball? Is it weather? Remember, we started a week later, though, so how much colder could it really be? What's your overall opinion of how this season has kind of started, Tony? Do you think there's anything we could take away from the first 22, 23 games and use it to find winners in the next week or two?
I do. And I was on a show Saturday with Friday with Teddy on his show, and we talked a long time. We talked baseball, and it's all we talked about. And we talked a little bit about the totals and However, if you were blindly betting unders, you were, you had some party money for May Day. And we did start a week later. It's some of it's this time of year. I never look at a board, Drew, and search out where's the fun game tonight? Where's the over game tonight? Where's the game that's going to have a ton of run? The first thing I do in April is I look pitching matchups, the weather, the wind, and umpires, and I'm searching for unders. Well, one of the reasons I've started this season pretty well. I am 33 and 12 right now, which is a pretty good start. That's a start that anyone would take. And in the first 50 games of the season, I was 13-1. I had a 13-0 run coming into the weekend on totals. 13-0. Of those 13, every single one was an under. Every one. And I looked at last year. I came into the season looking at last year and saying, listen, pitching bullpens the last couple of years. People talk, first off, we've talked poorly about bullpens, and it really hasn't been that big a dynamic or a dichotomy between bad bullpens and good bullpens over the years, over the last decade, to be truthful. Still, the first inning is the highest scoring inning in baseball. It was when everyone went to that first five. I'm playing first five because I don't trust the bullpen talk. And you heard it more than anybody on this show, Drew. The weather's warming. Yesterday I had an under. I'm now 13-2. Pardon me. I'm now 13-2 in my last 15. Moving from 13-0, losing my last two totals. The weather's going to start warming. And I mentioned it in the last segment we did about the Yankees. When it warms, it's going to change, but the ball's deader. This is a different ball. They got so much complaints about that live ball. And then the league went to the no, the no stickum. The no Blitnikoff rule. Can't use any of that stuff that Blitnikoff makes somewhere in China. I don't know. And here's the deal. With the no stickum, they had to deaden the ball a little bit for several reasons. They don't want that kind of exit velocity, and they don't want pitchers throwing. It's just, here's the deal. In a nutshell, it's going to get more. We're going to go the same things. And 2 months from now, we're going to talk about, wow, look at the ball flying there and there. It's still a dead ball. It's still going to leave the park. Not going to leave the park when it's 50 degrees and the wind's blowing in, Drew. And until we hit 70s, 80 degree weather across the upper or lower 48, I still think we're going to have more unders than we have overs. And again, I'm on this early game right now in St. Louis. I'm on the under, and it wasn't a big total. It was a 7.5 with a Kansas City with a Greinke and a Mats. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we got Ed and Joey in the chat box saying humidifiers too in more of these stadiums.
Yeah,
Brian, what are your overall thoughts here?
Right.
Yeah, totals wise, and really what you've taken away from the first 22, 23 games from the season.
Yeah, if you take a look at exit velocity on line drives, it's higher than it's ever been. The problem is the ball is going about, home runs are like, fly balls are like 3 feet less than they normally are. So the ball is different. I think the humidifier has something to do with it. But the reason why the games went over yesterday as opposed to earlier is the lines maker lost a lot of money on people betting the unders. They were just blindly betting unders and winning. And when that happens, they have to make adjustments. And just look at today's card. We talked about the Yankees in Toronto. If you had to give me Montgomery against Stripling before the season in a game played in Toronto with these two teams, I'm thinking the line's 10. Well, it's 8.5 right now. You take a look at Tampa Bay and Oakland tonight. Rasmussen and Jeffries, not the elite pitchers, and the line's 6.5. The lines maker has made his adjustments. It's sort of like being a batter, a rookie batter, and the players make adjustments. He comes out and does well, and the pitchers make adjustments. Now, you as a bettor need to make adjustments. You cannot blindly just play unders any longer. And Tony had a couple of nice points there. Yes, the weather does have some effect. I don't think it's going to be like it used to be with the humidifiers out there, but we should get more scoring as it starts to warm up there. But, even in a place like Baltimore, which is usually a launching pad, they made adjustments to left field. And now, if you take a look at the Baltimore roster, Baltimore is a team we were looking to play overs on in the past because they had some decent hitters and their pitching was terrible. Now they've got a terrific starting ERA for this team. I mean, it's ridiculous. that they're coming out and being able to pitch like that. So every year it's a little bit different. Teams make a little bit of adjustments in like a stadium once in a while. So I think we're going to see more of the same. I actually enjoy it. Games where people are just getting up there swinging for fences, I don't like that. Next year they're going to get rid of the shift a little bit, so that'll be a little bit different. But I'm a guy, if I'm going to root for a team, I want a guy who can hit that ball the opposite way and get that single and get some runs that way. And we got so many players out there right now hitting home runs. I don't like it. I think if the defense makes the correct adjustment, they should be rewarded and not going back and being penalized for that for the future. So, from what I have noticed this year, it's similar to that. We just got to play the unders unless you've got reason not to. But I have been a little bit disappointed in some teams out there that got off to poor starts. I mean, take a look at the White Sox. I wasn't a huge White Sox fan. I know they've had some injuries, but this line opened at 120 here against a lefty. And now it's starting to get up there higher. They're taking a lot of money now. I'm seeing 154 at Circa. And the White Sox have a 143 WRC plus against lefties. What took that line so long to move is what I want to know. If you like the White Sox, you had a lot of opportunity to get that going against Sandoval. And I like Sandoval. But the Angels have gotten off to a real nice start here. So we'll see what happens. But there's some teams out there that have just not gotten off to a good start. And maybe it's the shortened spring training, we'll have to see, but you just got to make your daily adjustments.
Yeah, shortened spring training as well. We left that one out. So great stuff there, guys, in terms of, hey, out the gate, finding some more winners. Huge shout out to the chat box, like always. Hey, let us know below, guys, in the reply section, what you think about new baseball, humidifier, 20-game mark, what you've taken away so far this season, and what you're looking to bet going forward. All is welcome. Any questions, fire them out there. We'll answer them this week on First Pitch. Right here, 1:45 Eastern on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Time for best bets. Guys, a reminder, it is $9 Monday. Check out Brian Leonard, Tony Finn, and myself, Drew Martin, all at WagerTalk.com. Let's go around the horn here. Tony Finn, Tijuana Tony. Where are you going for best bets, buddy?
I'm going to go to the Yankees north of the border facing off against the what are we going to call them? I don't know, Toronto Bombers. We can't call them Toronto Bombers. But a good hitting Toronto team. And I found this game really interesting. Again, I mentioned already that I found the Stripling trade when he went from LA when he went to Toronto, his struggles. I found that pretty interesting too, because this guy was not, he wasn't chopped liver. And while I always try to stay away from pitchers that are gone from the National League, the American League, soon that goes away too with the designated hitter rule. But to my point here, Stripling, four-seam fastball usage way down. Sometimes it's as simple as telling a guy, don't shoot the three, you can't shoot the three. Don't throw your worst pitch so much, you'll get better. 2019, 3.47 ERA, 3.47 FIP for the Dodgers in 90 innings, went horrible. This year, throwing his best pitch more, his worst pitch less, more swings and misses, playing for a good offensive team. Stripling and his piggybacks behind him should have a good game tonight. I like this under. The Yankees own the top bullpen in baseball by F4, and Toronto's pen's been much better, guys, especially behind Stripling. Give me the under 8.5 runs.
Brian Leonard, $9 Monday. Check him out. What do you got for best bets on the show, buddy?
Yeah, I'll go back to one of the games we talked about, but there are a few others that didn't quite make it for me. The Arizona-Miami game to go under. We talked here about Stripling. I agree with Tony. I like Toronto in that situation. But Houston is a team I'm looking to back here. We talked about it earlier. I think we're getting a starter here that we've seen the worst of Odorizzi. He's not a guy I'm looking to bet very often, but we're getting him in a nice range here against a lefty. Houston's done very well against lefties. Houston's only played 6 games at home this year. They're a better team than Seattle, and the line movement is showing you that. I like Houston in this matchup as my best bet for today.
All right, and Brian mentioned it earlier, guys. I'm going to make it a little bit tough on the viewer here because I'm up against Tijuana Tony, which I don't like doing, but the New York Yankees, Toronto Blue Jays. To Brian's point earlier in the show, I mean, if this happened earlier in the season, what would the total be? It'd be in the double digits, most likely. We get Montgomery on the hill for the Yankees. The Yanks are just 1-3 with him on the hill. Stripling, look, he's been up and down this season, but the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen, if Stripling doesn't go deep, which I don't think he will, the middle of that bullpen isn't as good as the late. And sure enough, we've seen Romano throw a bunch, the Toronto Blue Jays closer. We've seen Chapman throw 2 days straight. So is he going to be available? Not too sure. So we get two really good lineups here, home runs and bunches in a hitter's park in Toronto. Overs went 12-3 yesterday, guys. Might be a turn here. Bet the over, Yankees and the Blue Jays at 8.5, -105 is my best bet. So making it tough on you guys as the viewers, as me and Tony, hey, two different individuals on two opposite sides of the play. We get Brian Leonard, Astros -130 for his best bet. So guys, that does it for First Pitch. Huge shout out to the chat box. Like always, we appreciate you guys joining us live. And again, a reminder, feel free to reply below with any questions, your comments, what you're betting. It's all welcome, guys. For Brian Leonard, Tony Finn, I am Drew Martin. Make sure to check out WagerTalk.com. Today's a good day to do so. $9 Monday. We are all up with plays available, so check it out, guys. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Best of luck until then. Thanks for tuning in.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, when all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.